And welcome to LIB 301, an introduction to interdisciplinary studies. So, this is for those of you who are upperclassmen, usually juniors, seniors, maybe sophomore, if you've gotten ahead of yourself there. Congratulations and good for you. The idea here is to introduce you to what interdisciplinary studies are and to begin to build your portfolio. So it's kind of a two-focus course. We'll be studying what interdisciplinary studies are themselves, different models for them, and then we'll also be working on beginning your own portfolios and your own structures for your continuing work, and also so that you have a portfolio when you graduate. So to begin, let's work with what is on the home page, and that's what this is. I'm going to try to keep this pretty short. Um, I realize you can't see all the way over here, but over here on the left, this is when you click on home page, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get my recent announcements, and so far, because I don't have the welcome announcement in, because that's what this video is going in, that'll be up here at the top when we get finished. But down here, you have your actual what it is with the number for the course, if you have to enter that anywhere, and your course information and the weekly layout. Now, what I'm going to show you right now is of particular importance because it is the course guide. If you click on that, it's going to download the course guide, which looks like this. And I'll go and kind of go through it to show you some of the important stuff in it, and so we'll know what we are doing. As it says here, it's a gateway course, as it were, to the upper division sequence of the liberal arts program. It's designed to introduce key terminology and methodology, and it is to also begin to design and develop your individualized portfolio. So again, two different focuses in what we're doing here, and you'll need to work on both of them. The course guide has an accessibility statement, of course, and then it has the table of contents, which gives you the basic and general information, the course at a glance, course design, learning outcomes, which we're going to talk about in a moment, your required text and your required resources, as well as recommended resources, the course grading, how it is done and what you are being expected to do itself, and then an outline for each week. I wholeheartedly recommend downloading this because it's a really, really good document to keep you up with what's going on each week, what the overall thinking is. At the beginning of each week, it has basically an introduction to the week that we consider to be the same thing as what used to be called guidance. The overall integration of ideas at the very beginning. Now, where I want to bring us right now is into these things called course learning outcomes. Those are what you are going to be expected to know at the end of the course. And in fact, each of your assignments will have what are called WLOs, weekly learning outcomes, and CLOs, course learning outcomes, associated with them. And I have made up a document showing you for each of the assignments that I grade what I will be looking at. But these are very important because most of the assignments are designed to meet both weekly and course learning outcomes. So you want to think about those and incorporate those elements in your responses to those assignments. So the big ones here, your CLOs, are normally 5 major points. The first one is to explain why interdisciplinary studies is foundational for identifying, pursuing, and attaining educational, personal, or professional goals. You're going to see this one a lot. It's in almost all of the assignments. The second one, distinguish between disciplinary and interdisciplinary methods of analysis in the liberal arts and their applications in understanding the human condition. Now, this requires that you understand what disciplinary arts are and what interdisciplinary arts are. Disciplines are specific areas of study or of academic discourse, such as history, math, biology, chemistry, English, etc. Any one of those is a discipline. It has specific ways that the people who train in it are taught to process information and different types of information to look for. Interdisciplinary methods are ones that combine the disciplinary points from 2 or more disciplines. And as you will learn in the first chapter, the difference between interdisciplinary and integrative is that in interdisciplinary methods, all of your disciplines are balanced. You're using them all, the ones that you're choosing to use, you're using equally. In integrative thinking, you're picking a main one, but you're bringing in ideas from 2 or more other ones, but they're not balanced, and there's not a going back and forth each way. So that means, of course, that you're going to be learning the actual disciplines of at least 3 areas, especially for the final project. Define key theoretical positions associated with interdisciplinary approaches to learning and constructing knowledge about the human condition in varying contexts. So again, the interdisciplinary theory involved here, several different types. Number 4, explain how the broad model of interdisciplinary integration can produce a more comprehensive understanding of an issue aligned with personal or professional goals. The broad model is actually introduced in weeks 3 and 4, so the 4th CLO you won't actually see a lot of until you get to weeks 4 and 5. But it is a very good model, and it's again the one that argues for balance and how to integrate equally from 3 or more disciplines. And then design components of an e-portfolio that identify and highlight the cognitive capacities, values, and competencies fostered by interdisciplinary study. You will see this beginning in week 1, including actually even your posting of your introduction. So those are what the CLOs are. The weekly learning outcomes, the WLOs, are located in your course guide and in a couple other places, which I will also show you, under each week. So for this week, Introduction to Disciplines and Interdisciplinarity, your weekly learning outcomes are to explain the value and importance of interdisciplinary studies in the humanities. That makes it different from CLO number 1 because you're specifically focusing on the humanities. Number 2, summarize the rise of interdisciplinarity and its critique of disciplinary specialization. And number 3, explain how interdisciplinary studies in the humanities is relevant to academic, professional, and personal goals. And again, this is focusing on the humanities, which makes it somewhat different from what you're looking at in your CLOs. Okay, and then this is the introduction for this week. I encourage you to read it. This is going to give you kind of the outline of what we're doing this week and what you'll be looking for, and then your required readings and resources, your required multimedia. Of which there are several here. Required web page, required website, because competency models you'll have to define. Define and create your own competency models for yourself. And then all the other fun things here, setting up how you're going to do it, then the recommended resources, and then what you actually have. You have a discussion forum, and you actually have your first discussion forum, your post your introduction, due on Tuesday, on the first day. And it will address specific things. Introduce yourself to the class with elements of your life that you would like to share. Identify 3 competencies that you value most. Explain why you value these 3 competencies as relevant to current or future personal or professional goals. Discuss how your current understanding of interdisciplinary studies in the humanities and liberal arts aligns with your vision for your future, right? Then you're going to respond to 3 of your classmates, and in each one of those, these are what are called guided responses. You'll have specific things you have to do in them. In each response, connect at least one of your competencies to a competency identified by your colleague. They do not have to match exactly. And then in each response, explain how you understand the relationship between the competencies you and your colleagues have chosen. So this again is due on day 1. Well, the top post is. You may do the 3 responses up until day 7, which will be next Monday. But notice again here, we have your WLOs. Post your introduction aligns with weekly learning outcome number 3. And then CLOs 1 and 5. So I'll be looking at those WLO and CLO stipulations when I'm grading your discussions and all of your assignments. Your first big discussion, the value of interdisciplinarity, WLOs 1, 2, and 3, so it's going to hit all three of those, and then CLOs 1 through 5. It's going to be due on Thursday with your peer comments due until Monday, and that's going to be pretty standard for those. And you're going to need to use for these the videos, at least one of them, and then you're going to choose two of the following approaches: systems thinking, contextual thinking, perspective taking, integrative thinking, or ethical analysis. And each one of those you're going to learn about in the course of your assignment, required readings for this week, and in the videos. So, and then you, as part of your explanation, you're going to address those points. Your initial response, your initial post is due on Thursday with at least 250 words in length. Now, I am not a stickler for word length. It can be as long as you need for it to be, as long as you are not wandering far afield. As long as you're on topic, it can be as long as it needs to be. I am not a stickler for making sure that meets that what I consider to be minimum criteria for word length. All right, each week you'll also have a self-reflection, except I think in week 3 or 4, one of those weeks, the self-reflection is actually another discussion. It is a source analysis, and I think it's in week 3. But in the other weeks, you'll have this. I will read these. I will obviously grade them, but I will not be directly involved in discussing with you what you say in that. This is between you and your peers. And then, of course, each week you have an assignment. It is structured. You're all upperclassmen at this point. It's structured per APA rules. You'll address these issues. You'll be using the required sources. And I encourage you to bear in mind that you also need to reference those sources in the body of your work. And by that, I mean cite them. Citation must be in APA form. It is mandatory. I have a whole thing in my reference documents posted already on plagiarism and academic dishonesty, because I'm a big no about those. There you go. Formatting for Microsoft Word, APA style, all the required things. So this is going to be, and this is foundational for everything you do. Your discussion post should also have correct citation internally and with a work cited at the end. I am very much a stickler about that. So this is generally what you're looking at most weeks. Again, I encourage you to download the course guide so that you will have those WLOs and CLOs right there with you. And I have a document, like I said, that I will share with you attached to my introductory post that shows what the WLOs and CLOs are for each assignment that I grade. I don't have them for your quizzes, but then I'm not too worried about the quizzes. And I don't have them for the extra credit things or for the optional things that you have in week 5. I will grade those if you have them, but they are optional for you. All right, so the twofold objective then of this course, as mentioned several times already, is to learn about what interdisciplinary studies are themselves, and also to be creating your portfolio. So with that in mind, let's go to the final project. I'm going to bounce back over here to our home page. And as I said, you'll notice that a lot of this is repeated everywhere. This is actually, the course information breaks down to a certain extent a lot of what's going on in the course guide itself. Each of your week things will have the same constructive things with those also, so you can often just bounce to the home page and go to the specific week to see what you've got to do. Come on down. There we go. So let's go to the final project so that you can see what that is about. Sorry, my computer's a little slow. Okay, so this is the final project. And the reason I'm bringing it to you is because you're building on this from the beginning of the course. So you need to go ahead and have some working understanding of what it is. You'll notice it is focused specifically on weekly learning outcomes 2 and 3 for week 5, but then the CLOs, all 5 of the CLOs for the course itself. And it is a multi-structured project. You've got a lot of things to make decisions about in it, which is why I want you to go ahead and start looking at it. It has a final project checklist, which I encourage you to download and keep up with. It has a video that's a good idea for you to go ahead and watch. I'm just going to recommend that you watch it right now. Go ahead and get some sense of what you're doing. And notice that there are multiple tabs in this that will explain what you're doing. Under assignment content, you will be looking at what a global challenge is. Then you're going to explain why this is particularly important to you. Then you're going to pick 3 distinct disciplines that are relevant to the challenge that you are looking to take on. So at least one of them has to be from the humanities. You'll have discipline maps in week 3 to look at. You have the week 3 assignment. You have the mind map in week 4. All of these can help you with that. You'll describe how each of the 3 disciplines offers a specific perspective on this challenge. And then for each discipline, you'll explain its relevance, perspectives, insights, ability to shed light on the subject as a whole, strengths, and limitations. You will support your examination of each discipline by citing at least one scholarly or peer-reviewed secondary source from that discipline. So I encourage you to bear in mind that the library has a wonderful structure where you can look for different disciplines and different articles and publications within those disciplines. So be sure you take advantage of the great strengths our library does have in finding those secondary sources. Then you're going to evaluate individually the distinct disciplinary perspectives that are useful, yet not adequate to addressing the entirety of the problem, which is why you're using 3 disciplines. Explain how different theories of interdisciplinary integration can overcome the limitations you've seen in the distinct disciplinary perspectives, and then explain how the broad model integrates by justifying why it's necessary for achieving a more comprehensive understanding of the global challenge you are addressing. So lots of fun things here to have to do, and this is just in our assignment body. You'll also upload your final project to Folio, and this will be a big part of what's going on with this as well, because you're going to be referencing your final project in that. The assignment format, you have choices here, and you need to go ahead and start thinking about those, because that's going to play into how much time you have to put all of this together. You can do a paper, you can do a website, you can do a lesson plan, you can do a business report or proposal, you can do a business or community presentation, you can do a grant proposal, you can do a video presentation, or you can do a PowerPoint, Canva, or Adobe Express presentation that you narrate or talk through. The same with a Prezi, any of those that you do that's that way, you will have to actually do in the same manner that I'm doing this. You'll have to do vocal and or video overtone to it. And then last but not least, the writing and the formatting requirements, depending on what format you use. No matter which form you use, it's going to have your appropriate APA title page. You must use academic voice. You must include an introduction and conclusion. You must use at least 3 scholarly peer-reviewed secondary sources, as well as the course text and material from the 15 Global Challenges website. So you're going to have at least 5 sources, if not more. And here's some really good links for utilizing the library to find those. APA citation within your project, regardless of whatever form you're taking, and a separate APA style reference page at the end, regardless of whatever format you're taking. So, and then last but not least, the update to the e-portfolio, which you must do as well. All right, so again, I'm giving you this because everything we do, starting literally with post your introduction, is geared towards getting you on board with this final project. With all of that in mind then, again, you can look over here for any of these particular things, your syllabus, the modules, your grades. You can go there to see your grades, course policies, the Writing Center and Library, again, both very good. I totally approve of Grammarly and many of the things the Writing Center has. Course resources, student support center, signals, etc. I do want to take a moment to look at the announcements that I've already posted and talk about at least one of them, because this is a project that, or a problem that all of us in the School of Liberal Arts have recently discovered, and we're running late on the discovering of it. I want to go here to plagiarism and academic dishonesty, because with ChatGPT and other forms of open AI, we are finding a lot of things that students are submitting to us as original that actually are not. Load for me or what? I'm sorry, my computer is very slow when I run ScreenPal. So plagiarism, I'm sure most of you are reasonably familiar with. Plagiarism is when you use somebody else's work without giving them credit. That happens when you quote somebody and you don't put the quote in quotation marks or cite it or cite it. It happens when you use an idea from an author, but you put it in your own terms. Well, it's their idea, so you still have to cite it. It's when you use information from a source without giving credit to it. It's when you use information that's not common knowledge and don't cite it. All of those are examples of plagiarism. Academic dishonesty, however, is a different factor. And it encompasses the use of AI and the use of Course Hero or previously submitted work either by you or someone else. We frown upon these things, and in fact, I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple clear shortcuts. One of the ways I know if you're using AI is if you have no citation in the body of your work, and even if I can't prove it's AI, I can prove that it's plagiarized because there's no citation. And if you don't have enough specific information in it to need citation, then you're going to get a 0 because you haven't done the work. So don't use AI. That's the simplest answer. Do all the work yourself. The other way is if you are using information or posts or assignments that have been submitted to this course from someone else who has either voluntarily uploaded them to Course Hero or any of a number of the other paper mill sites, supposedly tutoring sites that are offering to help you learn the dynamics. No, don't use these guys. One of the ways we can tell with them is that quite often they're using old material. These courses are updated regularly and have new required sourcing, especially for a course like this that's definitely based on things that are going on right now. So if you are using sourcing from a previous iteration of the course, that's going to be apparent. We know all of those particular sources, and it'll be easy to say, okay, you're not using the required sources for this iteration of the course. You're not citing them, you're citing old ones, and so that's going to be a no-no. You must use the required sources, you must cite the required sources. Try to use academic sources, Wikipedia, about.com, any open access site is not academic. If it is open source, as much as I hate to say it, while they're good, I like Wikipedia myself, you're still not supposed to use them because they are not academically sanctioned. Whoever writes them is not staking their reputation on what they're putting in there. So I encourage you to read through this. These are the long points in it. These are the short points in it. Regardless, you are now on notice that I have pretty much zero toleration for plagiarism and or the use of academic cheating, the use of AI or Course Hero or anywhere else where something's been previously submitted. Turnitin is really good about finding those things. So, all right, if you have questions, please email me. My email's all over the place. You can find it under your instructor's information. You can find it at the end of all of my announcements and pretty much anything that I post. I am going to try my best to also post in the Introduce Yourself uh, required post by Tuesday so that you guys can get to know me and know my disciplines. The first one I can tell you right now is history, because I am an historian by training. I trained in a discipline, not interdisciplinary, but I do a lot of interdisciplinary work today, and I read a lot of interdisciplinary work because history has now expanded into include things like statistics. It now includes lots of things like scientific studies. My own work tends to be with indigenous peoples, and there's a lot of scientific research going on with blood types, trying to consider where and how particularly indigenous people in the Western Hemisphere got here, with what groups they're associated, how their isolation has made them more biologically diverse than peoples coming from Eurasia. One of the other disciplines that I tend to use a lot is psychology, particularly oral history and recollections and changes in memory, which is both psychological and scientific. Because one of the main sourcing points that historians use, of course, are primary sources, which are documents written by people to relate information about their lives and about the things they've experienced. Historians use those primary sources, those documents written by people in the past, to get a handle on what things were like in the past and what actually happened. But depending on when a person wrote that document, the information in it may change. When in their lifetime they wrote that document. Memory has a distinct effect on recall. We often tend to remember things differently from how they actually happened. And a lot of that is so that we can deal with the trauma of that. So that's part of why when we talk about memory, that is both biological and psychological. So those are three of the areas that impact my own research and my own work. Again, I'll try to post that in a introduction point so that you'll have some sense of what I understand about interdisciplinary study. Good to introduce you to the course, to meet you all. I look forward to our work together, especially starting on day one.